So this video will focus on the consistency of the design in the applications on the Nokia C7. Now, one of the most important things in order to ensure a high degree of usability is to make an interface consistent, to ensure that the applications have a similar interaction pattern, that you can use the same methods to interact across the applications, and that you thereby can reuse the knowledge that you gain when you use one application. Nokia has a long story of consistent interfaces where you can learn one application and then, based on that knowledge, more or less figure out how you should work with other applications, which of course is very good for usability. So it will be interesting to learn if the interface overall provides a consistent interaction for the user in this phone. In most of the interface, the actions needed from the user in order to find an application, to open it, close it again and work with it, are consistent across all of them. Let's have a few examples here. I press the menu key down here. You'll notice that I have exit over here and then I have options over here. And these buttons are repeated throughout the interface. Let's go into calendar. Calendar will have exit, it will have options. Let me go into photos. Photos will have, even if I go in there, have some kind of backwards closing functionality over here, and more functionality over here under options. Again, if I go into a list, cancel will close something, or let's say if I open something, the right key over here will always take me backwards or close something. And it's the same thing all over the phone. Let me go into settings. This is just a list of functionalities. Again, I exit over here, I do more over here on the left one. If I go into the phone settings, again, back options. So it's fairly consistent and it's very easy to understand what you should do in order to move forward or to move backwards if you have this kind of pattern that you are following in the phone. So let's try to look at some applications and see if this works in the same way. Let's say I go into music. The way of getting into the music folder is simple. I only tap something once, as I do here. If I go into the music player, again I'll have a list of things. If I play something here, I'll have back and I will have options again. Let's say if I go into the radio. Now the radio is not working at the moment because I don't have a headset. But again, it's the button over here that takes me back. That closes everything. What you hear now is the music player playing, so I'll just take the tune playing now and stop it. And go back, and back, and back again, and back again, and so on. It's the same thing if I go into the clock. There's exit over here, there's options here. It's the same if I go into messaging. Exit, options, inbox, back over here, options over here. It's the same if I see the message. This one is in Danish so you won't get it, but it's a support message. Back over here, options over here. What I did there was actually a bit too fast. I'll just try to play this in slow motion. You'll notice that the negative action was over here on the right, and the positive action was over here on the left. So again, even a question like this one is consistent. But there are some applications that are not as consistent. Let's take the Maps application. You do have a negative thing over here, close. You have some settings over here and some questions here. So the one consistent item is over here. But let's say if I take my position here, it'll change to search and menu, which are not consistent with the rest of the idea of having a negative thing over here and a positive thing over here. Well, menu is positive, fair enough, but you should have close over here if the interface should be really consistent. And there are more applications such as this where the negative and the positive things over here are not perfectly designed. But another thing that bugs me is that in the majority of the applications you can use touch as you would expect. And what you expect is that you can take the interface and drag it, as I do here. And you can do this in most of the applications. Let's go into Photos. Here's a bunch of pictures, I drag them. Let's go into Settings. And let's find a long list as in Connectivity. Here's a long list, I can drag it. So everywhere that there is a long list, everywhere that something can be dragged, it should be possible for the user to simply touch the interface and drag something. Like here on the first page where I drag between these three screens, as you can see marked by the little dot down here. But then I go into messaging. And to me messaging is really important. It's the thing I use the most. Fair enough, here's a list, I can drag it. But if I'm in a message, I write a new message here. And I'll just write a message with no recipient. So if I'll just quickly do a message here that is very long. So here's a very long message. It's only T's, but it takes up quite a lot of the screen here. It actually goes roughly over to here. But I cannot move it here. I can only mark something. So if I want to go to the top of the message, I'll have to do something else where I go down here and mark or something. It's not possible for me just to take the message and drag it. If I want to insert a symbol, I'll push this key, I'll push Insert Symbol, and I have a list here. I cannot drag it, I have to switch between two screens. If I insert a smiley, I cannot drag it, I'll have to switch between two screens. So it's not a disaster that I have to switch between two screens, because it's fairly easy for me to understand that I'll use the arrows. But all the stuff that I've learned in the other applications, such as in the photo gallery and all the other lists where I can just drag something, is not something that I can use here, because this is not consistent with the rest of the interface. Also here in the calendar, there's a lot of dates here, but I cannot drag them. I can only press in the bottom of the list, the bottom of the calendar, in order to go to the next month. So overall, the majority of the applications in this phone are consistent and have consistent interaction patterns, consistent text, consistent location of positive and negative actions. But some of the applications don't. And it takes away a bit of the fun and decreases the degree of usability slightly.